up, guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. I hope you guys are doing well today. Happy Wednesday, I think it is. You made it to the middle of the week. Good job. Today what we're going to be doing is continuing our series where we discuss the legendary figures within watchmaking. We've discussed a lot of, I don't know which episode this is, but we've done a lot of episodes where we've discussed some other watchmakers who've made significant impact in the history of watches and horology. If you don't know some of the other ones, they're probably in our side panel, but we've done Breguet, we've done Rousseau, I think, as well. There's a lot of individuals who we've discussed in this series. So if you haven't seen those and you don't understand the format of these, check those out because it will give you a really awesome idea of what we do. Also, if you like this episode, you might as well check those out because these people really did contribute a lot to watchmaking. So you're probably wondering who we're going to be discussing today in this episode, and today we're going to be discussing Jehan-Jacques Blancpain. If you kind of understand that last name, Blancpain is obviously a watch company, a historical brand within Swiss watchmaking, and Jehan-Jacques Blancpain was the original founder of this historic watch company, so that's who we're going to be discussing today. But before we get into that, and I say every video, be sure to smash the like button for Blancpain. If you like Blancpain, you might as well smash the like button as well. And be sure to hit the subscribe button if you like these types of videos. So going into Jehan-Jacques Blancpain, just if you don't know about Blancpain, I can give you a little bit of a brief history. Blancpain was founded in 1735 and it's currently based in Paudex, Switzerland, which is in the canton of Vaud. Blancpain is obviously known as being one of the oldest surviving watchmaking companies to date. I know that is 1735 doesn't seem like a very long time ago, but it is it's the oldest watch brand to date. Interestingly enough, when I was doing some of the research, there are actually records of Blancpain being registered as a horologist before 1735. So you could probably say that some of the activities of Blancpain actually have been around for a lot longer than 1735. Within the last 30 years, they joined the Swatch Group, which is what a lot of companies did. In 1992, they joined Swatch Group, and the watch that really stands out for them and is representative for who they are is probably the 50 Fathoms, the dive watch 50 Fathoms that they create. It's kind of an icon within their line. I'm not going to get too deep into the 50 Fathoms. I think that would be the history of the 50 Fathoms would probably be a very interesting video to create. So look out for that. But they've been involved in watchmaking and have really made some very historical steps forward for watchmaking. Just to name a couple, in 1983, they're known for creating the smallest moonphase display. In 1987, they created the thinnest chronograph and thinnest minute repeater movement. In 1988, they created the thinnest split-second movement. The list goes on and on. Something recently that they did in 2008, they created the world's first 1-minute flying carousel with 100 hours of power reserved, obviously, for a tourbillon. So the brand itself has definitely made an impact on watchmaking in general. But going back to Jehan-Jacques Blancpain, he was actually born in 1693 into a family of farmers and school teachers. They seem like a very Swiss family. He was born in a town called Villaret, which is in the canton of Bern. Bern is in the western part of Switzerland. And like I said, he grew up as a farmer and ended up becoming a school teacher. I think having a background in farming actually helps you kind of learn about the fact that there's a process to a lot of things, and it teaches you hard work and taking care of let's say your land or whatever. And I think those are really applicable to watchmaking, which is probably why he created such a great brand. Like I mentioned, he became a school teacher, which was actually similar to what his father did. His father was a school teacher, and he ended up following in the footsteps of his father and became a school teacher to one of the local schools. But during his time there, he actually learned about watchmaking and kind of gained an understanding for the idea that watchmaking actually has potential for creating a future for himself. So he actually started to produce, while he was still a school teacher, he started to produce parts that were used in pocket watches, and none of them were signed or anything like that, but he ended up selling those to watchmakers. after creating those parts for pocket watches, he decided to diversify a little bit more and started actually creating Ebausch movements, so base movements that could be used quite widely. And this kind of brought us to when he founded the company in 1735, where he opened up his first workshop. Ironically, that first workshop was actually located in the upper floors of his own home on his farm. So during this time, you know, he started to create movements. He started with parts, created movements, and then ended up opening up the doors of Blancpain and started selling those. And obviously, it was a great success because of the history of Blancpain is quite vast and very successful. Along with the fact that he had such a great relationship with his family, and you know, it was almost like a camaraderie of working all together. He actually, Blancpain originally was actually made up of Blancpain's family. His wife supported him, and some people believe that she was probably integral in a lot of the finishing that happened to the early Blancpain watches. His son Isaac, who was also a school teacher, also helped out in the Blancpain workshop, but a lot of the employees of Blancpain were actually Jehan-Jacques' uncles and aunts. So it was really a family effort and almost like a family-run business, which is something that you find a lot in Switzerland. Families who all work together on the same business, and the history of it often goes a lot deeper than just what you see at face value. Unfortunately, for us as enthusiasts and collectors, during the early years of Blancpain actually didn't sign any of the watches or movements that he created during the early years of the company. We know that it was founded in 1735 by historical records, where it registers the Blancpain business, but empirical evidence of actually seeing the watches that were created during that time is kind of hard because they just simply were not signed. So pre the 1800s, there's very few. There's not that much evidence of Blancpain's creations that have been signed by him. The only known watch that was actually signed by Blancpain was a pocket watch that he had created for Louis XVI. That was signed Blancpain et Fils. So that is the only empirical evidence that we actually have that says that Blancpain was, empirical. The only evidence of a watch that was created prior to the 1800s that came from the Blancpain name. As I said, there is evidence that shows that the name Blancpain was registered as a watch company in 1735, and some say that the activities of Blancpain actually go before that. But that's the Louis XVI's watch was the first one that was actually signed by Blancpain himself to say that the company created this watch. And obviously the company has a lot of history after that. There was some disruption to the brand's history, and then it was brought back up by some very well-known companies and individuals that we know, such as Jean-Claude Piffer, and there's a much greater history than what I'm referring to right now, but this is just the history of Jehan-Jacques Blancpain, and to understand the founding of one of the oldest Swiss watch companies ever to be created. So that's all I got for you today on Jehan-Jacques Blancpain. I think when we compare him to a lot of the other watch makers that we have looked at, perhaps his individual history has not been as significant as someone like Breguet, who was in charge of creating the first wristwatch. So he didn't have a lot of those types of inventions, but I think it's a test. You don't have to be creating those types of firsts just to be considered a legend within the watchmaking industry or watchmaking history. Blancpain created a company that is thriving today and is known as one of the oldest brands to still be around. So I think it doesn't just have to be about creating the first ever wristwatch. It can also be about what you've added to the Swiss watch industry. So if you haven't seen some of the other videos where we've discussed some of the other watchmakers, be sure to check those out. They're probably in the side panel, but we also have a playlist on our channel which has all of our legendary watchmakers in one playlist, so be sure to check that out. Also, if you didn't do it in the beginning of the video, be sure to smash the like button for Blancpain, as well as subscribe to the channel. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.